Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei was Reincarnation of Sukuna and Satoru Gojo and wanted to annihilate all factions movie. Before we start, please go support Fenikusu of Abby's for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. He was despised by everyone except a few people. But he couldn't say anything to the woman who loved him because she was forced to be with him, the arrogant brother of the person she loves. But thanks to his betrayal, a being of pure evil and negative emotions of great destructive power was reborn, but also of a being of pure light with the same capabilities as the being of pure evil and negative emotions of great destructive power but stronger. They chose him to be their successor and annihilate the factions that are the cancer of the planet, and the two beings agreed to eliminate them, but as they were dead they decided to choose a successor together so that it would be stronger than separated. But the people who supported him will try to make him see reason so that he does not destroy the supernatural world. Can they make him become the boy he once was? Either the boy will destroy everything in the supernatural world, leaving behind the people who supported him. Clarifications. 1. This happens after the Trihexa, who is a woman named Yumek. 2. Issei has a brother who is 900 octillion times worse than Rias since he has Drake who hates him for being an arrogant man named Luis. 3. Issei is the reincarnation of Satoru Gojo and Ryome's Sukuna and will have the appearance of Satoru in a normal and civil state, but when he fights he will have the appearance of Sukuna and will have a combination between the two personalities of the two named, but when he fights he will have the sadistic and evil attitude of Sukuna and a little arrogance on the part of Satoru, but in general he will have that of Sukuna, but without the arrogant part, and he will have his kind part. For those who did not despise Issei are Serog, who sees him as a rival and best friend; Reiser, who is not arrogant and sees him as a younger brother; Tannen, who sees him as a son and is his best disciple, since when they trained Issei he proved to be an extremely talented prodigy since he had gigantic magical reserves at the level of a dragon god and control of it at the same level as his magical reserves and superhuman strength from his ancestors, in addition to creating various devastating techniques. Reiser's entourage, who see him as a good man and a very kind gentleman; Kiba, why he doesn't like Luis and sees Issei as a brother and rival with the sword since he was a prodigy in the art of the sword, being at a higher level than the strongest knight of the underworld named Max, who sees him as a rival and best friend for his talent with the sword. Max, the strongest knight in the entire underworld, as I said before. Arthur, for the same reason as Kiba. Biko, why he sees him as a younger brother besides being a prodigy in the subject of cooking. Vala, Lucifer, who sees him as a rival slash best friend slash younger brother because he saw what Luis was like and didn't like him at all. On the other hand, Issei sees him as I said before. 5. Issei will have 3 couples who are Valeria Lucifer, Vala's sister, but she was forced to be with Lise; Rise Levon Lucifer, Vala and Valeria's grandmother; Yumiko Apocalypse the Trihexa. 6. Here Issei will have the ability to create curses at the level of a dragon god with a mind of his own, but they will follow Issei to eliminate the supernatural world, so the factions were worth cheese xddd. 7. Here Rise revealed what Luis did, how to trick everyone into hating Issei except his friends slash brothers slash father on Tannen's side, and the arrogant brown-haired man will suffer a lot until his death. Ha 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 ha, I'm crazy but I don't give a shit, ha 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 ha. 8. Issei had a girlfriend before but she cheated on him with Luis to make him suffer, but I don't know who to put as Issei's ex-girlfriend, Igvild or Rienair. Prologue. The birth of the sorcerer king of the strongest curses. You could see a very scary castle, but at the same time large and very luxurious. And in the main hall of the castle you could see a pink-haired guy with 2 pairs of blood-red eyes with black marks on his body, wearing white clothes while drinking extremely expensive liquor. Ignore the blue and black fire on his hands. This was Issei Ryome Gojo, the strongest cursed sorcerer king in history, a cruel, bloodthirsty, and sadistic king and sorcerer who killed those who were arrogant, evil, and cruel to the weak, without mercy in the supernatural world. But it wasn't always like this. In the past he was called Issei Hayadu, the youngest son of the Hayadu family because his brother was 2 years older than him. His name was Luis Hayadu. Luis. He was popular at school but had bad grades because of his arrogant attitude, while Issei was the most popular for being kind, gentlemanly, and having the best grades in everything, even in the most difficult subjects, even those at university, which made him graduate from Ko Academy and Ko University before his brother, who was furious about it. But one day a girl invited Luis named Yuma out, but when the date ended she was going to kill him, but Issei, who knew magic thanks to an extremely advanced magic book that was more like a grimoire but one never seen before, defeated her and left. Issei's grimoire, which is 100,000 leaves with powerful and devastating techniques, but its appearance is like this XD. So the two of them went home where their parents were waiting for them with two young women that Issei knew perfectly, Rias Gremory and Sona Citri. Those who told them the supernatural and told them that Luis had a sacred gear and that Issei had gigantic magical reserves, and when Luis woke up his sacred gear they saw that it was the gauntlet of the Red Celestial Emperor Drake, one of the two celestial dragons. So Rias turned Issei and Luis into her pieces where they felt stronger, more Issei, and their magic increased greatly, being at the level of a dragon god. So time passed where Issei trained to be able to protect his teammates, while Luis only trained until he could unlock the balance break. Until then he trained, and then he became a partner of Rias, who became interested in Luis, and the same with Sona. Thus passed the days where a nun arrived at Ko called Asia Argento, who was saved by Issei, but Luis stole the credit, which Issei did not care about, but Luis forgave Reuniting, who became Issei's partner for being very strong, surpassing Luis, who at that time had Asia, Rias, Akeno, Sona, and those in her entourage as a partner. Thus time passed where the Gremory entourage had to fight against the Phoenix entourage and its heir, although he did not want it. His name was Razor Phoenix, who defeated everyone except Issei, who gave him a great fight, defeating him by exhaustion of magic, who accepted defeat and recognized Issei as a great SSS rank sorcerer for his techniques before the surprised gaze of everyone. But Rias decided to stay with Luis, who was humiliatingly defeated by the Phoenix. But his sister became interested in him, and in a few days she became his partner, to the anger of Razor because she saw that he was arrogant, whereas his brother was not, and got along very well with him to the point that they treated each other like brothers. And Issei got along with a purple dragon named Tannen, who was like a second father to Issei, besides being a former dragon king and very wise, who trained him as much as he could and made him be among the strongest in the world, top being on par with Big Red, to the surprise of Tannen, who was proud of his student and figure of a younger son like his son, who saw him as the brother he never had. So time passed where some girls from the church appeared, where they said what was happening with the sacred swords, where in the end when they gathered all the swords this one chose Issei, forming the original Excalibur, to the shock of everyone, even Kokabio, a fallen angel of Gregory of cadre level. So with great mastery for his first time he defeated the cadre, but did not kill him because the Hakuyaku appeared and took him away and said that he was disappointed in his destined rival, but he hoped to fight Issei one of these days, something that the younger brown-haired boy nodded with a challenging smile at the Hakuyaku, who left, but not before the celestial dragons spoke among themselves. So when Zenobia ended, a blue-haired girl with a green lock joined Rias's entourage as her knight, and became Luis's partner, who had an arrogant smile for having many women with him. So the next day a silver-haired man with golden eyes named Vali appeared, who was the bearer of the white celestial Emperor Albion, who said he was on the side of the fallen angels, and they had a chat where he left because he was busy with some very important matters. That's how everything happened until the faction meeting where the leaders of the three biblical factions were. But Luis looked with lust at the leaders' companions, especially at an albino with red eyes, somewhat revealing clothes, and a sinful body named Valeria Lucifer, Vala's sister, who was very beautiful, but she looked sideways at Issei with a small, almost imperceptible blush. Thus the meeting was interrupted by Kateria Leviathan, who wanted to kill Sarah Fall to have her position as Mao, but was eliminated by Issei of two of her strongest techniques, the Solar Dragon Dance and the Solar Fire Wheel, to the surprise of all who saw that technique that she used with the original Excalibur. So he fought against Vala, who could do nothing against the original Excalibur, which was much more powerful than before thanks to an improvement that Issei made to it. So he accepted his defeat, but one of his companions appeared called Biko, a yokai that took Vala and Valeria, but before leaving the albino gave Issei a kiss on the cheek before the jealous look of Reuniting, and she left from there with her brother and companion. Many things happened, like Loki's fight and Isaka's rescue at the hands of the heroes faction. But one day Issei was challenged by the strongest knight of the underworld named Max, who fought against Issei, and both were tied, thus beginning their rivalry before the surprised gaze of the entire underworld by that event. And then more things happened that were important for the final meeting. But the day before something happened that marked Issei. Since the younger chestnut was about to give a box of chocolates to his girlfriend, but when he was going to see her he heard moans and flesh colliding with flesh, and what he saw broke his heart. What he saw was his girlfriend Reuniting having sex with his brother, and she was saying things about him like, "Give me harder, make me pregnant with your children. Tell me, Reincarnate, do you love Issei? Your brother is useless. I only used him to make you jealous." Those things among others while they had hex with each other, and they came at the same time, leaving Issei's heart broken, who threw the box of chocolates in the trash and left there with an emotionless look. Thus came the battle against the Trihexa, and at that moment Issei left his relationship with Reincarnate, who tried to return with him, but a point-blank attack left her badly wounded before the eyes of the entire alliance, surprised by what Issei did, who said something that surprised everyone even more. "Issei, when this war is over, I don't want you to bother me or you'll die, and don't look for me at all if a new problem comes," he said, releasing his magic that was above the Trihexa for thousands of times since he trained, until his bones broke to everyone's shock. So the younger brown-haired man left there, since a lightning bolt fell on him thanks to his Excalibur on top of him, taking him away from them. But Valeria tried to stop him but couldn't do it in time and looked at the place with tears. So they asked him for answers about what he did to make him mad at her, and Trihexa spoke, saying that his carrier and the fall had hex, and he felt Issei's aura nearby, and said that he must have seen them, something that surprised everyone. But they got mad at the two except Luis's harem, who had a smile about it, but the others got mad about it. But the angriest was Valeria for doing that to the love of her life. So when the day came that the Trihexa was released, Issei fought with all his power, defeating him and locking him up again, but not before telling him something that only he heard. "Trihexa, see you later, darling," she said, whispering in a woman's voice to Issei, surprised that this one is a woman, but he nodded. So when Issei finished, he left without saying goodbye to his loved ones, who looked for him but found nothing. While with the aforementioned, he was in his castle that he created with his magic and a barrier so they could not feel his power, and that made his castle invisible, where when he went to sleep he entered his mental space without knowing why, but he heard two voices. "So you're our reincarnation? You look interesting, brat," said a voice with a sadistic touch and desire to kill that made Issei stand on guard. "Calm down, brat. We won't do anything to you," said another voice that had a calmer and funnier touch, so that Issei doesn't go down the lair yet. 6. The younger brown-haired boy spoke. "Issei, who are you?" I asked, looking everywhere for the voices but couldn't find anything. "Good," said the first voice, so that all of Issei's mental space changed to an area with a giant bone which Issei was inside, and in front of him were two piles of bones, where on top of the two there were two people. One was a pink-haired man with two pairs of blood-red eyes with black marks on his body, with white clothes and a black scarf with a dark blue belt with white scribbles, and he had his head resting on his hand with a funny yet sadistic smile. The other person was a white-haired man with a blindfold, wearing dark blue clothes, and he was standing on the pile of bones I was on with an amused smile. "Issei, who are you?" he asked seriously, preparing his best technique. But the white-haired man spoke. "Oh, that's right, you don't know our names. Well, my name is Satoru Gojo, the strongest sorcerer in the history of the human and supernatural world, but over time he forgot my name, like the four eyes over there," he said, introducing himself, and said, pointing to the pink-haired man, who threw an energy cut that couldn't touch the white-haired man because of an invisible barrier that Issei could see thanks to one of his techniques, Fire Eye of the Monkey. King Sun Wukong, the one from the story of Journey to the West, who is able to see things invisible like Satoru's barrier. "Idiot, well, brat, my name is Reincarnation of Sukuna, the king of curses, and like the snowflake my name was forgotten over time, and I am above him, Trihexa, like trillions of times stronger than Satoru, but if he and I fight at 100% we would end up in a tie, but mortally wounded, that's why we died," he said, introducing himself, and said seriously like Satoru, who was serious but it was not visible because of the blindfold on his eyes. "Issei, and I am the reincarnation of the two, right?" I asked, surprised by that. Already in front of him were the beings that surpassed the Trihexa by trillions of times, to receive a nod from the two, so that Issei gets on his knees at a speed that the two did not see, to their surprise, because he did it at a speed that exceeded the nanosecond of the speed of light. "Issei, I don't know if I'm sure I'm his reincarnation. I'm not worthy of that," he said respectfully without looking at them, which made them sweat anime style for that. "Satoru, Issei, don't do that. We don't like to be treated with respect. Besides, if you are more than worthy of our power, since we saw your life and you proved to be more than worthy of our power, besides, we will want to ask you something," he said the last thing seriously like Sukuna, so that Issei gets up and looks at them with seriousness too. "Sukuna, we will want you to eliminate the supernatural because they are the cancer of the earth, plus those gods who are just arrogant, and that Thor's hammer, the god of thunder, chose you as its new bearer. But for that you will have to go to Asgard to claim it. But first we will train you to master our powers." But since you are a prodigy with our abilities, you will do it quickly, he said seriously, but the last thing with a big sadistic smile like Satoru, so that Issei nods with the same smile. So that both beings think something. Sukuna/Satoru, this will be interesting, don't disappoint us, Issei Raion Gojo. They thought with their sadistic smile, which grew bigger with that thought. Thus began Issei's training to master his new powers for being part of a special class cursed by Sukuna, who told him that he had a wife who was her reincarnation is Rise Levon Lucifer, which surprised Issei, who thought that was why he did not kill her, since the younger brown-haired man let her go, but not before making people believe that he killed her so that she could escape alive. So they trained for a long time in the mental space, which outside was 4 months but in the mental space was more than 500 million years, since Issei perfected his skills to such an extent that just by thinking about them he could summon his attacks. So the day came when his teachers/parents had to say goodbye to their disciple/son. Sukuna, I should have said that I was surprised, Issei, that you are a prodigy surpassing us by far. I am proud of you, boy, he said with a smile of pride for his adopted son like Satoru. Issei, you embarrass me, Father Sukuna, he said with a smile because of that. Satoru. Well, Issei, now we will have to merge with your souls so that you have our experience in combat, and memories so that you know how to use our techniques, but this is not a goodbye but a see you later, since as you are part human you will have a life limit, but you will have an eternal life due to the negative emotions of the human and supernatural world, so goodbye son, he said to touch Issei's head as Sukuna, and they too become lights entering. Issei, who received all the memories of his adoptive parents, and how to use their techniques, while his appearance changed to that of Sukuna but then to that of Satoru, being able to alternate between the two as he pleases. The end of the supernatural is beginning because of a fall, and an arrogant dragon created an evil being, but he still retains his kindness and chivalry with his loved ones. But the question is, can they make me stop thinking about eliminating the supernatural? Chapter 1. Assembling the team. Issei could be seen creating very strong curses, the first of his group called the Upper Moons. Curses with a human appearance but at the same time demonic, and a part of his power. Now he was creating the first ones, the first being the second and third superior moons, which when he finished creating their bodies, he gave them life. Issei, welcome Kokushibo Doma and Akaza, he said with an evil smile so that the one known as Kokushibo could speak. Kokushibo, where am I? I asked seriously, since I remembered being eliminated by the fog wind rock pillars and a rookie hunter. Doma. Wow guys, it's a joy to see you again, he said with a smile upon seeing his upper moon companions. Akaza, now, no Doma, the question is, how did we come back to life? The pink-haired man asked seriously so Issei could talk. Issei, I can answer that. Akaza Upper Moon 3, Issei said so that the 3 new curses look at him and put themselves in a fighting pose to attack. Kokushibo, who are you? The Upper Moon 1 asked seriously, ready to use his lunar breathing, but Issei spoke. Issei, my name is Issei Raion Gojo, the Sorcerer King of Curses. A pleasure to meet in person the 3 strongest upper moons of all, he said with manners and a gentlemanly touch to surprise the 3 upper moons, but he spoke again. Issei, I'll explain now, but a beer? I asked to make 4 beers appear with the table so the 3 of them look at it analytically and accept to sit like Issei. So they drank the beer and liked the flavor. So Issei began to tell them about his life since he started in the supernatural, until the Trihexa, to the astonishment of the 3 upper moons, but they got angry with Reincarnation and Luis for deceiving him. But then Issei told how he met his teachers and adoptive parents, his training and farewell, and the mission they entrusted him with to eliminate the supernatural, something that interested the 3 upper moons. Issei, that's why I revived them, but not as demons, but as curses, beings that are born from the negative emotions of living beings. The more negative emotions we consume, the stronger we become. So I proposed something to them. I explained to the surprise of the 3 new curses, but they paid attention. Issei, I kindly ask for your help to annihilate the supernaturals except those who support me and the women I love, and don't worry Doma, you can devour the hitches of Luis's harem as well as those who despised me. What do they say? I asked with an evil smile to leave the new curses thinking, and Akaza spoke. Akaza, I accept. It will be fun to fight again, he said with a defiant smile and excitement to fight again since he hasn't fought for decades and wanted to try the new demons of that era while drinking beer. Doma, I also accept and promise not to devour your women, but with the others I am more than satisfied, he said with his classic smile, while eating crimson women's hana that Issei gave him to eat. Kokushibo, Sai, if I have no other choice I accept, but do I have a descendant in this era? The black-haired man asked so Issei could talk. Issei, in fact, you have 2, they are Kiba and Max, who are your descendants, but they are both prodigies with the sword, not like me, but they are, I explained calmly to receive a nod from Kokoshibo. Issei, well, now I will go look for 2 scientists who can help us with the medical issue, and the experiment issue, and 2 more people for the mechanical issue, he said, changing his appearance to that of Satoru Gojo to the surprise of the new curses. Doma, he said, to get a drop of sweat style to the 3 curses for that. Issei/Kokoshibo/Akaza. Shitty Rag said, the 3 with chibi faces to make Doma be in a corner with a depressive cloud because of it. Issei, well, see you in a bit, guys, and please don't make a mess in the castle, because then I have to clean everything up. He said, putting on the bandage so his power doesn't get out of control, and disappeared, to the surprise of the curses who went to train together to recover their powers to 100%. With Issei, the now white-haired man appeared in an alley of a city known as Metropolis, where he went to a factory where he heard a voice. What are you doing here, stranger? He said so that Issei could look at a guy with a mustache and glasses wearing red and black clothes. Issei, hello Dr. Robotnik, or should I say Eggman? I asked the person known as Eggman in a childish tone. Eggman, who are you to know my name? He asked seriously while his robots surrounded Issei, who was calm. Issei, there's no need to resort to violence, Eggman. I'm just here to make a deal, he said with a slight smile, to the interest of the aforementioned. Eggman, talk and I'll see if I'm interested, he said seriously so Issei would talk. Issei, it's simple. I propose a place where you can do your experiments without being accused of that, and you don't want to avenge your family for what the fallen angels did to you? He asked seriously but with an evil smile, to the impact of the big ton, who remembered how his family died because of the fallen angels, and he spoke. Eggman, I accept, but how will I take all my experiments to your base? I asked doubtfully so Issei can talk. Issei, don't worry, I'll take the entire factory to my castle, but do you know of anyone who knows the same thing as you? The white-haired man asked doubtfully so Eggman could think for a moment and speak. Eggman, well, I have a friend who is just like me. He even surpasses me in intelligence, but we are best friends. Here is his address, he said, giving him the address of his company so that Issei would assent and the 2 of them would go outside. Issei took out his grimoire, to Eggman's surprise, and he said something. Issei, Divine Transportation said so that the entire factory would go to his castle with a message to the upper moons in case they saw him. So on the way Issei told Eggman about his life, who was surprised by that and felt admiration for Issei for that, but got angry at what Reincarnation and Luis did for doing that to Issei. So they arrived at a company that had the name of the most intelligent scientist in the world, Lex Luthor, who was waiting for them outside his company in an elegant suit. Lex, it's been a while, my friend, he said, shaking Eggman's hand, and saw Issei, who spoke. Issei, it is an honor to meet the most intelligent scientist in the world, Mr. Luthor, he said with manners and a gentlemanly touch, earning a big smile. Lex, the pleasure is mine, Issei Hayadu, and I know why you came, and I'm inside since the demons took my family and employees from me, so I'm inside, he said with a smile to surprise Issei, but he nodded but spoke again. Issei, with all due respect, Mr. Luthor, I don't want you to call me by that last name. My new last names are Ryom Gojo, but it would be better to go get your things to go to my castle, he said with a smile so that Lex could assent. Thus they entered to go to the top floor of the company that was being driven by robots that Lex created. When they reached the top floor they saw many robots with weapons. There were even state-of-the-art weapons, so Issei did the same spell as with Eggman's factory, taking all the combat robots and state-of-the-art weapons. So they went to Issei's castle. When they arrived they saw the upper moons, who greeted the 2 scientists, and Issei said he would go for 2 more people, and so he disappeared so the 5 of them could start talking to each other, getting along very well. With Issei in white hair, he was in a forest on a hill where he saw a prison of the supernaturals, where he took his appearance of Sukuna and created some special class curses, and they launched themselves against the supernaturals who were guarding the entrance, thus creating a massacre. So Issei entered so that everyone looked at him with fear because of his appearance, but he spoke. Issei, where is Dread and Tozen? I shout for everyone to point to a door provided so that Issei can use his cursed ritual. Cut, killing all the prisoners without leaving anyone alive. So he went to the door and charged magic with cursed energy in his fist, and said something. Issei, mystical divergent fist, said to strike, destroying the door provided to see 2 people. One had black armor with red eyes and the other had black armor too, but with a green fire mane with green toxin claws, ready to fight. Dread, who are you? I asked seriously and in a fighting pose like a fool so Issei can talk. Issei, Nice to meet you, Dread and Tozen. My name is Issei Gojo, the Sorcerer King of Curses. Nice to meet you, he said with manners and a gentlemanly touch to surprise the two prisoners. Issei, and I come to propose something interesting, he said with an evil smile for the interest of both. Tozen, continue, said, saving his green toxin claws like Dread that left his fighting pose. Issei, tell me, don't you want revenge on the Mao's cadres and archangels for what they did to you? I asked with an evil smile to leave the two prisoners thinking, remembering that their families died and spoke for them. Dread/Tozen, wherein they said evilly to make Issei's smile grow bigger, so the pink-haired man destroyed the cells where the two were, and they went outside to see the curses that Issei created so that they would leave with the curses. But not before destroying the entire prison so that they wouldn't know that the two of them escaped, so they left there. On the way, Issei told them his life to surprise the two prisoners and Sintiorn respect and admiration for Issei, but they got angry for what Reincarnation and Rias did, so they arrived at Issei's castle so he could put on his appearance of Satoru Gojo because it was more comfortable than Sukuna's, to the surprise of the two prisoners. So they entered and saw the upper moons talking with Eggman and Lex about things in life, but they saw Issei with the two prisoners so Issei could talk. Issei, well, we already have almost all the team members. We only need some people that Kokoshibo Doma and Akaza know very well, he said with a smile to surprise the upper moons since he knew who they were talking about. So Issei created some bodies and gave them life, bringing the other superior moons. Daki, hey, where are we? I asked, looking around at the demon woman. Jotaro, that's what I'm saying, little sister, weren't we in hell? The brother asked seriously about Daki's protector. Hantengu, oh guys, you're alive, said the upper moon force seriously to his companions. Gyoko, I say the same, my friend, said the mutant fish with delusions of perfection to his companions since he thought he died a long time ago. Kaigaku, gentlemen, you are alive, but how? The black-haired man asked in surprise, so Issei could speak. Issei, I can explain that, he said, so that the revived ones look at him without the blindfold to make Daki blush because of those beautiful eyes at his words. Jayataro, who are you? He asked seriously and angry at seeing his sister blushing, but Kokoshibo spoke. Kokoshibo, calm down, he's our new master, said the upper moon one to the revived so they would look at him and be surprised to see the first upper moons there, but Issei spoke. Issei, first, I am not your master, and second, my name is Issei Gojo, the Sorcerer King of Curses. A pleasure. Upper moon 6, 5, and 4, he said with a stick face and introduced himself with manners and a gentlemanly touch, to the surprise of those revived by his manners. Issei, I know you have doubts about why I revived you, but allow me to explain why. But please, can you sit down? He asked, going to the table like the others. So they sat down and Issei began to tell his life to the revived, to their surprise and anger at what Reincarnation and Rias did for deceiving him. But then Issei told how he met his teachers and adoptive parents, his training and farewell, and the mission they entrusted him with to eliminate the supernatural, which interested the revived upper moons. Issei, that's why I kindly ask for your help to annihilate the supernaturals except those who support me and the women I love, he asked kindly but with an evil and at the same time sadistic smile to leave the revived thinking. Kaigaku, I accept, it will be fun to fight against the supernaturals and fight again, said with a sadistic smile. Daki, I'm in. Handsome, she said, winking at Issei with a seductive smile, which made Issei blush a little. Do you want Daki to also be in Issei's mini harem? But the white-haired man returned the smile, making Daki blush a lot. Jotaro, if my sister is inside, I am too, he said with a sadistic touch. Gyoko, I'm in too, so I can make new works of art, said the mutant fish with delusions of perfection and madness. Hantengu, I'm in just with what you told us. I'm more than in, he said with a slight macabre/sadistic/evil smile. Issei, well, it would be better to start your training so that you control your bodies, since they are not demons, they are curses, beings that are born from the negative emotions of living beings. The more negative emotions we consume, the stronger we become, so you will have to train to regain your powers, since I could not do that alone, bring them back to life, so I would have to train to regain their powers. In exchange, Eggman will teach you how to use magic so you can defend yourself, the same for Lex. But do not expect me to be compassionate with you for being older, he said with a sadistic smile, which gave a chill to the two mentioned, who nodded with a determined look. So they all went to train to recover their powers from the moons and learn magic from the others. Chapter 2, The Attack on Asgard. In Issei's castle, the aforementioned could be seen teaching magic to Eggman and Lex, who were at the level of Drake and Albion outside of the sacred gear and in their prime, but decided to rest in order to begin their moves against the Alliance. You could see the whole Issei team and himself at a circular table. Daki, And well, which faction do we start with, Issei-kun? I asked, but what he said made her blush because of that. Issei. Very pretty blushing Dakimore. The faction that we will attack will be Asgard, since I have accounts with that faction how to collect the hammer of Thor the god of thunder. From what my father Sukuna told me, I am the new bearer of the hammer, so I will go to claim it, and for its spells and the keys to the seal of the Trihexa. That from what he told me before I sealed it that she was a woman. I explained seriously to everyone's surprise that the beast of the apocalypse is a woman, Issei, so those who will come with me will be Akaza and Doma. The others train until they break their limits. Also Eggman and Lex continue training because they will need it for what is coming, he said with a macabre smile, like those mentioned who will go with him. So everyone went to train except Issei, Akaza and Doma, who went to prepare for the attack on the Nordic pantheon. While with the Alliance they were looking for Issei everywhere, plus those who supported him, plus Valeria, who only went out to look for him, and when she returned she went into the ex-Brown's room and just cried day and night, thinking that he died. Of course, her brother and friends tried to comfort her, but it didn't work. But one day Luis decided to flirt with her, but he came out almost dead for doing that. From that day on, no man flirted with her because otherwise they would die in just a second. In Asgard, you could see that everything was calm, but an explosion appeared at the entrance where all the soldiers went to see what happened. But when they arrived they were frozen by Doma, who had their fans open, and they were cut by the curse ritual of Issei. Cut, killing all who came near, while Akaza launched himself against two of the demigods, being the sons of Thor, Magni 6 Modi. So the three of them fought, but Akaza used his blood technique, forming a snowflake beneath him, which confused the two demigods. But they didn't pay attention to it, and they launched themselves at the Zero Arrow Akaza. He was beating them up, not letting them hit him, and when they did, the pink-haired man dodged him with extreme ease. Not even with his blinding fog technique could they hit him. With Doma, the blonde with rainbow eyes, he killed and devoured the Valkyrias he found, and he liked their meat and continued devouring the Valkyrias. While with Issei he was fighting against Thor, but the aforementioned felt that his hammer was heavier until he could not carry it anymore and threw it, and Issei kicked Thor away to grab the hammer and lift it. To everyone's shock, the hammer got fed up with Thor because he was arrogant and didn't protect anyone. In another universe, Thor, you see him. Why do I feel that Thor was arrogant and lost his hammer? Good thing I'm not like that, and I not only protect my people but also the universe, said the best Thor of all with a smile, looking at his people who were happy and in harmony. Back to the DxD universe. Issei, now I am the new god of thunder, said mockingly in his Sukuna appearance to put cursed energy into the hammer, causing it to change shape to a slightly more compact one with some colored stones in the hammer. Issei, well, let's finish this chaos lightning, he said to throw the hammer that began to spin, filling with black lightning, hitting Thor directly, killing him instantly. So the hammer returned to Issei's hand, but a magical attack hit it full on, creating a smokescreen that when dispersed you could see Issei unharmed, and he saw the person responsible, who was a white-haired woman with blue eyes with a developed body. She was Gondel, Ross's grandmother. Issei was surprised since he heard of her, but he never thought she was a total beauty, surpassing his granddaughter and equaling Valeria. But she spoke. Gondel, why are you attacking Asgard? I ask seriously in a fighting pose so Issei can snap out of it and talk. Issei, I don't see the problem with doing this, cutie, he said with a flirtatious tone, which made the Valkyrie blush since Issei got something of Satoru's flirtatiousness, and he liked everything to go the way he wanted like Sukuna. But it rarely happened. But what he said angered the Valkyrie, who launched herself at Issei, who kept the hammer in a magic circle, and waited for the blow which stopped in front of him, to Gondel's surprise. Gondel, how? She asked, surprised by that, but Issei in a quick movement was kissing her, which left the Valkyrie static, but little by little she was reciprocating the kiss until Issei took her by the waist, and she wrapped her arms around his neck, deepening the kiss before the gaze of the Asgardians, who had their jaws on the floor and their eyes like saucers because of that, but they were turned into cubes by Issei, who continued kissing Gondel, and in the process passed on to him the memories of his life and how his granddaughter did bad things to him, and how Ross and Odin wanted to eliminate her as they did with his daughter for being a danger, and her for not being of use to them anymore, something that impacted Gondel. So they continued kissing, but Issei did something daring and squeezed her, but making her give a slightly muffled moan because of that. So they separated with a massive blush on Gondel's part, and a barely visible one on Issei's part. Gondel, is what I saw true? Asks with tears to come out so Issei can talk. Issei, Sigh, if it's true Odin killed your daughter and he and Ross were going to eliminate you for not being useful to them, he said sadly for her, who began to cry because her only family wanted to eliminate her, but Issei hugged her to comfort her. She was like that for a few minutes until she fell asleep, so Issei picked her up and took her away. But not before creating 900 clones so that they could take the books and the keys to the Trihexa seal. They got them and the clones went to Issei's castle to keep the books and seals, while the original had left with Gundel in his arms with Akaza and Doma, who had finished off all the demigods. Of course Doma wanted to devour Gundel, but Issei told him that she is his wife, which Doma agreed with, a little sad that he couldn't eat Gundel, but Issei told him that he could eat the others, except his wives, which he agreed with, very happy about. With the alliance, they were partying, but a wounded Valkyrie entered the room and screamed, "Valkyrie, Odin-sama, Asgard was attacked!" Screamed, falling to her knees, to everyone's shock because of that more than Odin that his kingdom was attacked. "Odin, who was responsible for attacking my kingdom?" he asked, exalted and furious about that. But what the Valkyrie said surprised everyone, especially those who supported Issei. "Valkyrie, it was Issei Hayadu who attacked Asgard. He killed many of the high class and supreme class. He took the magic books, the keys to the Trihexa seal. In addition to killing Thor, he took the Mjolnir and he took Gundel," she said, screaming before falling dead from bleeding. But what she said left everyone stunned, even more so to know that Issei killed many of the high class and supreme class, even Thor. But what scared them was that he took the keys to the Trihexa seal, since if he releases it, it will be the end of everything. But Odin cursed himself for not killing Gundel before. Now he is with Issei. But Riser saw something in the Valkyrie's pocket, and took it out, and saw that it was a sphere that began to float, where it went to a table so that a hologram of Issei with the appearance of Sukuna could be seen, and he spoke. "Issei, hello factions, if you see this, it means that you already know that I attacked Asgard, so if I were you, I would prepare for the battle against the curses," he said, while an army of special class curses was shown, which terrified everyone except those who supported Issei, who were serious. But Valeria was sad because of what the love of her life did. "Issei, and if those who supported me see this, don't try to stop me. That's all I ask. But pay attention to Valeria, because one day a month I'm going to visit you to talk about some things," he said with a slight smile so that the aforementioned would smile because she could see the love of her life again. "Issei, well, that's all I'll say. See you on the battlefield, shitty dogs, except my friends/brother/father go, and this message will explode in 5 seconds," he said. So the hologram turns off and a countdown can be seen, which made everyone cover themselves with magic shields, so the message exploded, destroying the ceremony room. Now everyone had a new enemy, who was none other than Issei, who defeated the Trihexa and locked him in his seal. Issei's harem. The harem of Issei, who are Rise Levon Lucifer, main and alpha of the harem for being the reincarnation of Sukuna's wife, whose name is Annihilate, the Queen of Curses. Valeria Lucifer, second in command of Issei's harem. Yumiko Apocalypse, the Trihexa and the third in command of Issei's harem. Daki and Gundel. Chapter 3. Reunion between love interests and curse kings. It had been 2 days since Asgard fell to the sorcerer king of curses, something that terrified the entire alliance, and they were alert in case he attacked again. But so far nothing, which gave them a bad feeling because everything was so calm. But we focus on an albino who was walking through the forest at night but heard a branch break and was on guard. "Valeria, who's there?" she asked seriously, looking everywhere but heard a voice she recognized. "Issei, as cunning as ever, my queen," Issei said. So Valeria looked where she heard the voice to look at the aforementioned, but he was with his Sukuna appearance but with white hair like Satoru, and his eyes were blue but the small ones were red, making Valeria blush because of how handsome Issei was. "Valeria, Issei, is that you?" I asked with tears about to come out, so that the aforementioned of his old smile to make Valeria shed tears, and in a moment to another she is hugging Issei, something that surprised him because of the speed with which she did it, but the hug corresponds with a happy smile to see her love interest. "Valeria, Bibi Baka, don't leave again without warning please. Do you know what I had to go through because you left?" she asked, looking at him with tears in her eyes which made Issei's heart ache, and she spoke. "Issei, I will never do it again my life," he said with a Gojo smile which made Valeria blush a lot, who kissed him on the lips to Issei's surprise, but he reciprocated with pleasure, so they stayed in that kiss for a few seconds. That Issei did something daring and squeezed his butt, making Valeria give a muffled moan because of that, so they separated with a massive blush on Valeria's part, and a barely visible one on Issei's part. Valeria, Baka said, embarrassed by what Issei did, which made the aforementioned laugh a little. Issei, come on. I know you like it too, he said, getting closer to her ear and whispering something that made her blush massively. I know you're perverted. Don't think I realized you had pictures of me in your room without a shirt, he said, biting her ear, which made the albino give a slight moan of excitement, who blushed worse than Rias's hair to the amusement of the white-haired man. But out of nowhere they feel a power equal to Issei's but to a lesser extent, which made the two serious, and in front of the two albinos a magic circle appeared with the emblem of the House of Lucifer, and an albino with eyes red like blood appeared. The two recognized it as Rias Levan, Lucifer, Vala and Valeria's grandmother. Rias, hello, honey, she said with a normal smile to Valeria's surprise, but Issei spoke. Issei, hello Rias, it's been a while since I let you go, he said with a slight smile. So at one point Rias was kissing Issei, to his surprise and Valeria's shock at what her grandmother was doing. They were like that for a while, and when they separated, Rias explained to Valeria why she kissed Issei, to the surprise of the white-haired girl, because her grandmother was the reincarnation of the wife of Issei's adoptive father and teacher. So the three of them went to Issei's castle to meet the others and stay with them. Chapter 4. The Attack on Heaven, Gremory, and the Yokai Faction. We can see Issei sleeping with his partners in a big bed since they like to sleep together, since when this war ends they will get married, but a couple of Issei is missing so they can get married. It had been 3 weeks since Issei took Valeria and Rias, and many things happened. The first is that Rias revealed what Luis did, such as raping clan women and other women from the factions. He even slept with the matriarchs of the Gremory clans, Citri, Baal, Phoenix, Astaroth, and other important women from the factions. He also revealed that he gave him information about the factions to sleep with women with big breasts. He even dealt with Rias herself, but she only tortured him in the worst way, making him afraid of the daughter of the original Lucifer. Another thing is that Valeria went to tell her team where she was staying, which relieved Vala and Tannen even more, who saw the red-eyed albino as a daughter. Of course she asked them if they wanted to go with her, and they accepted, even Kiba and Max, who were there talking. But they left without Lefei and Kuroka, who did not want to go with them. Of course this happened before Rias revealed the true face of Luis, who was an arrogant womanizer, and who only cared about himself, and no one else. Another thing is that Drake freed himself from the seal to go far from the factions to live his life peacefully with his love interest, who was a celestial dragon-ranked dragon, but was stronger than Drake and Algin together, but she was in love with Drake. And her name is Minerus, the Crimson Celestial Dragon Princess. It is only known that they are expecting 2 of my babies. But we focus on Issei and his new family, who considers his team as such. They were at a table talking about which faction they will attack now. Issei, okay. Now we'll do a triple blow to the Alliance, he said with an evil smile to everyone's surprise, but they liked the idea of a triple attack. Vali, and who will attack the Alliance factions? The White Emperor asked with doubt. Issei, Kokushibo and I will go to heaven for their sacred objects, and the other keys to Yumiko's seals. In a dream she told me her name since she was able to communicate with me. He said to surprise everyone for that reason, but Asintra Nakaza and Hantengu will go to Gremory to cut off their supply of technology and destroy the artificial sacred gear that Azazel creates. He said so that the aforementioned Asintra are serious. And Doma and Gyoko will go to the Yokai faction to eliminate them, and in the process take the Senjutsu scrolls and the magical relics of the faction. He said so that the aforementioned Asintra are serious, but they had a macabre smile, so they went to prepare for the attacks. In heaven everything was calm, but an explosion appeared at the entrance where all the angels went to see what caused it, but a hammer with red and black rays collided with them to carbonize them entirely, and the hammer returned to the hands of Issei, who had a cold and dark look, but with a sadistic smile he did one of his father Satoru's techniques. Issei, Convergence Divergence, Curse Reverse Technique Red, he said with his finger raised so that a red sphere appears in it to throw it, and create a path of total destruction. Something that terrified the angels because of such magnitude of damage. Kokushibo, Lunar Breathing 8th Posture, Rotating Tail of the Lunar Dragon, said to move his sword from side to side to create a large-scale attack, killing all the angels in the area. Thus they advanced until they met the archangels, who were in shock to see Issei but were terrified to see Kokushibo, who left from there since he knew that their leader and younger brother figure had things to resolve with them. Michael, Issei-kun, why are you doing this? Seriously asked the idea of heaven, so that Issei puts his hand on his chin and speaks. Issei, there are many things that they did to humans, such as giving them weapons to defend themselves against the supernatural, but they ended up being slaves to the demons and to you, and they pretend to be saints, which is a pure lie. among many other things on a long list that I have here," he said, taking out a list that spread throughout the sky to leave the archangels with their eyes wide open. But they saw that Issei burned that list. Issei. But that doesn't matter anymore, but I can't let go of what the factions did to the human world, and that deserves the destruction of the supernatural world, he said seriously, but with a macabre/evil/psychopathic smile and a sadistic touch which scared the archangels. "Gabriel, but Issei-kun, can't you give up on this idea of eliminating the factions?" I asked sadly about that. "Issei, I can seraph Gabriel, but I won't do it since you would be screwing me with returning to the Alliance so that I can marry the girls of the DXD anti-terrorist team, and I don't want that," he said angrily, releasing his magic and cursed energy, something that terrified the seraphs because of that monstrous power. But they saw that Issei created fire to make a fire arrow and say something. "Issei, arrow of the cursed hell," said, ready to shoot the fire arrow, which surprised the archangels with that technique, but they prepared their best techniques to counter this technique. When their attacks were ready, they launched them, Issei's being far superior to those of the archangels, completely incinerating them. So Issei went to where Kokushibo was killing the guards of the angels' warehouse. So they went inside to see all the things of the angels' faction. So Issei did his divine transportation technique to take everything to his castle. So they left, but not before placing a cursed energy bomb that destroyed everything in its path. So they left so that heaven would be destroyed. When they arrived at Issei's castle, the white-haired couples rushed towards him as they were worried since they felt his power rise and saw that after them came Akaza Hantengudoma and Gyoko, so that the last two could open a magic circle from which came out all the things they stole, like Senjutsu scrolls and the magical relics of the yokai faction. So they kept everything in the warehouses that were under the castle, which were gigantic. Something that surprised everyone is that Issei has gigantic warehouses the size of 999. 000 000 000 000 000 000 000 000 000 000 000 times the size of Yumiko, but underneath everything was very modern, like his out of the future. So they decided to release Yumiko right there so as not to attract the attention of the factions. So they freed her, who saw that she was free and saw Issei to transform into his human form. So she kissed Issei, and it was no surprise to everyone since they knew it was another Issei couple for defeating her in combat. So they left there and went to sleep for tomorrow, which would be the end of the factions. Final chapter, Epilogue. Thousands of years have passed since the supernatural was annihilated. Of course I won't say it because it was a great level S gainer against Estarossa XDD. After annihilating, a person appeared whose name no one knew. Alessandro Sparta Ryome Voldegord Tempest Gojo Destroyer Apocalypse Chaos, but he had a somewhat intimidating suit in his opinion with 2 special pistols. He said that they should go to another world to survive since that world is about to be destroyed, which they accepted, and Ale took off his hood and mask, showing his face, which was black-haired, but his hair was like eternal night, with one emerald green eye and the other emerald blue eye, with 2 closed eyes below his own, with a certain resemblance to Issei, but with white tips on one side and pink on the other side, with a somewhat refined face, but with a lot of resemblance to Issei, but without the black marks. And they thought about it and accepted, so Ale created a transparent gray wall, something that surprised everyone. Drake and Mio joined the family because Issei told them to, and they accepted. And Ale said that it is called a dimensional wall, which allows him to travel to different dimensions at will, which surprised everyone, so they all passed by and saw a very beautiful beach. There Ale came out and told them that that was her dimension, and the beach they were on was from her island called Arcadia, which surprised them since it could be seen from afar that it was gigantic with the beach, and Ale said that it was 500,000 times bigger than the continent of the United States, which left them blank since that is exaggerated. But Ale told them that she didn't care about the opinions of others. So they went to the city of Arcadia, where they settled to start their life from scratch, but all together as a family.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.